About how to simplify the fractions. If we can see a common factor from top and bottom, we will just divide that or times the reciprocal of it. But I also mentioned if you have more than one term on the denominator or numerator, you can't just simplify. For example, this one, you can't just simplify that and that become a 2. That's something wrong. You shouldn't do that. So this lesson, we're going to talk about how to simplify fractions with more than one terms on the denominator or numerator. So to simplify, you need to understand why we can cancel things from top and bottom. Like, it's not really cancel things, it's we're trying to divide or add or times a same number on numerator and denominator. Well, we either enlarge it the same number of times or we divide same number of times to keep the same number, like the value won't change, but like make it a little bit simpler. So for this question, if you want to divide the 4 on both top and bottom, so what you need to do is you need to divide 4 on top, like, and then divide 4 at the bottom. So on top, if you're trying to divide 4, 6x minus 8, everything divided by 4, that will be the same as 6x divided by 4 minus 8 divided by 4. Which 6 can't divisible by 4. Okay, 6 can't divisible by 4. That's why you can't really cross the 4. You can see like 4 and 8. Yes, I can definitely do that. But we don't have 4 in 6. So that's why we can't do it. So the correct way of doing this type of question is we need to factorize the top first. Okay, we need to factorize top first or like factorize the bottom. Which one got multiple terms? You need to factorize that. So what I need to factorize this is we have 2. So we're left with 3x and the 4. And then the bottom is still 4.
Wait, why did you factor?
Sorry, what's the question?
Wait, why did you factor?
Because I want to see what they have in common. What both of the like numbers, or if they have 3, what they all have, they all contain. So they all contain a 2, which means I can divide the 2 from both top and bottom, not a 4. 4 is not enough, so we don't have 4 on top. So what I can do is simplify those 2, because that 2 I take out is both in the 6x and in the 8. So that's why I can cancel it from that point, that stage, not every very beginning. So that's what we will have. And the 2 and 4, well, you can't do anything to that because we don't involve 2 anymore in this 3x. So that's the simplest form for this fraction. Okay, that's the simplest form for this fraction. So we need to factorize before we cancel things or we try to divide things. Well, the next question, 3 minus 9x and over 2x. Well, I can take a 3 as a common factor. 3 and we left, well, we take a 3 from 3. We left with 1 and minus 3x. Well, the thing in the bracket, we can't touch them. Okay, the thing in the bracket, we can't touch them. The only thing we can do something with is the common factor. But for 3 and 2x, is there anything we can cancel? Anything we can simplify? No. So this fraction is already in the simplest form. Okay, this fraction is already in the simplest form. We can't simplify that anymore. Even though see a x here, but we don't have x in this term, so we can't get the x cancelled. Okay, next one, x squared plus 2x over 3x. Well, common factor on top we have is x. So we have x plus 2. And then divide by 3x. So now the common factor is x, and the denominator is 3x. So this x and this x can get cancelled. So what we have is x plus 2 over 3. x plus 2 over 3. It's only the x, okay, x involved get cancelled. Okay, next one. 6a minus 4a squared over 12a. You can see 6 and 4, we contain a 2 and we have 1a. So we're left with 3 and minus 2a over 12a. So I can't do anything to the bracket, but I can get 2a and 6a become a 6. So that is 3 minus 2a over 6. Alright, that's how to simplify that. That's how to simplify a fraction with multiple terms on the denominator or numerator. And then let's have a look how to times two fractions together with multiple terms. Okay, with multiple terms. Okay, to multiply them, we need to factorize them as well. Okay, we need to factorize them as well because we want to see on the numerator and anything on the denominator, can we cancel anything? Can we cross out anything? So for the first one, we can see a 2. Okay, I can see a 2. So we have x minus 2 over 3 times a 6 over x minus 2. You can put a bracket around those terms because there's a single term, like we can treat that as together. So x minus 2. Okay, anything on the numerator, if it is the same as anything on the denominator, we can cancel them, right? So anything on the numerator can get crossed out with the thing on the denominator. So those two just disappeared, can become 1 and 1. Anything on the denominator and numerator that become a 2. Well, I can't really see this color. That one, that become a 2. After we do that, we can see what has been left on the numerator. We have a 2 here times another 2. That become a 4. And denominator is just 1, so we don't have any denominator. So 4 is the answer. Well, see the next one. Well, the next one is already like I don't really have multiple terms to factorize, so I can directly see this one and this one. They can become 1 and 1. They look identical, denominator and numerator. And then we can say the 4 and the 10, I can divide the 2. Okay, become 2 and 5. And for the a term, that's an a squared. This a become a 1, a squared divided by a become a. So what have left on the numerator is 5a over anything left on the denominator, which is 2. So it's 5a over 2. Okay, give you 1 minute to do the division one by yourself. So the division one will be times the reciprocal. That's still stay the same as the normal fraction question. So you will times the reciprocal. Still needs to factorize it. If there's multiple terms on the numerator or denominator, do those two questions. Okay, let's have a look at those two questions. It's very simple. You can cross up most of them. So the first one, you times the reciprocal, which is 6 over 2x plus 8. And then you need to factorize 2x plus 8, so that gives you 2 times the sum of x plus 4. And then you simplify it, you have 3 over 2 for the first one. For the second one, the first fraction needs to be factorized. We have 2 bracket x minus 3 over 5 bracket x minus 4. And times the reciprocal, x minus 4 over x minus 3, we just have 5 or 2 over 5. 2 over 5. Okay, that's the simplification for fractions with multiple terms. Let's have a look at addition and subtraction of fractions. Well, when two fractions can be summed or can be subtracted? When? Like how? Same denominator. Okay, when they have same denominator. So now what I want to do is make them as the same denominator. So one fraction is 2 over 5 and the other fraction is 3 over 8. What do you think the common factor will be? 5a. So the first one will become 2a over 5a because I will times a on top and bottom. Plus, well, I'll times 5 for the second one. So that becomes 15 over 5a. Then this will become 2a plus 15. And you keep the same denominator. You're not going to add the denominator. Okay, so it's 2a plus 15 and over 5a. Yes? Well, if you can see it, you can do like that. But like the question will be harder than this. This is just like starting, like showing you what to do. Yes, you can skip the first one. Alright, that's the first one. Second one, 6 and 9. What's the common factor? Common denominator? 18. Okay, 18 is the common denominator. So it's 3 over 3a over 18 times 3 on top and bottom minus 8a over 18 times 2 on both top and bottom. So you will have 3a minus 8a over 18. So that's a minus 5a over 18. Minus 5a over 18. Alright, the next two. So 2 and 5 common denominator will be 10. Okay, will be 10. But be careful with this question here. You want to times 5. For the first one, you want to times 5 on top and bottom. So this 5 will times is the whole thing on top. So it's 5 bracket x plus 3. And then you also times 2 on both top and bottom for the second. So that's 2x minus 2. Yes. And then I want to add the numerator and keep the denominator. I will first, well, before we expand it, I will add them together first. Well, I will tell you why. When it's sum, it's not that important to expand first or like add them first. But for subtractions, you need to be careful. So I want to put them together first and then expand it. We have 5x plus 15 plus 2x minus 4 over 10. What we have is 7x plus 11 over 10. X plus 11 over 10. Okay, the next one. What do you think the common denominator will be for that one? Yep, so if we can't see anything simpler, we just times the two denominator together. That will be the common denominator. But be careful with this one. Well, denominator for here is x minus 6 times x plus 2. And then the top needs to have 3 bracket x plus 2 minus x minus 6 x plus 2. I have times x minus 6. So on top, I will times x minus 6 as well. Okay, I will combine the numerator first before I expand the bracket. So I have 3 well, that's what I will do. When you do the questions, do this by the same way. Do not expand it first. Put it together and then expand. Put as a one fraction and then expand. So when I expand that, I will have 3x plus 6 minus 2x. And then here is a plus 12. If you expand first and then combine them, you may get this wrong. Okay, you may get this wrong. So this will change sign, become a plus 12, not a minus 12. And then over, well, I'm not going to expand the bottom, just keep the denominator like that. I'll see if I can simplify further later. So 3x and minus x, that's just left with x. And then plus 18. So I can't simplify any further because there's no common factors between x and 18 anymore, and well, it's not the same as the denominator. So the simplified answer should be that. So the very important step is combine them, like put them as one fraction first and then expand. And then expand. Okay, next question here. What's the common denominator for this one? What's the common denominator for this one? X minus 2 squared. So the first one, there's no need to change the first one. So I will just keep it like this. And then the second one, I will times x minus 2. So the top will be x times x minus 2. Only change the second fraction is enough. Again, I will combine them first before I expand. So what we have here is x minus x squared, but plus 2x over x minus 2 squared. So what we have is minus x squared. Remember to write things in the decreasing order, so the power, which power is higher, we put that one into the front. And also the letters are put in the alphabetical order. So that's a, just keep this manner to write polynomials, like to write power terms. So that's what we have. And I can factorize. I can take a minus x out on top. So I left with an x and then minus a 3. Because I want to see is there anything looks the same as the bottom, but we don't really have anything looks the same. So the answer will be just like this. Okay, last example here. Okay, this question is a little bit interesting. Find the value of a. This is a fraction minus a fraction equals to another fraction. My question is, how do you solve linear equations? When you see fractions, what do you do first? Well, for example, I haven't learned solving linear equation. That's the next exercise. Then let's have a look. On the left hand side, on the right hand side, what you can tell about the denominator? What you can is the right hand side's denominator is the common denominator for the left hand side. Okay. So another question is, if we have like x minus 1 equals to a over x minus 1 equals to b over x minus 1, what you can say about a and b? They equals to each other. That's right. If like two fractions, you already have denominator is the same, and then two fractions are the same, which means the numerator must be the same as well. Okay, so we use that fact in this question to solve for the a. So So we keep right hand side whatever it looks like now, and I want to make left hand side become make as one fraction. So we need to find the common denominator. So x minus 1, x plus 1. We have a times x plus 1 minus 2 times x minus 1 over x minus 1, x plus 1 equals to, well, I will keep the right hand side, doesn't matter what it looks like. And then I will combine them. Before I expand the bracket. So now we have two fractions which are equivalent to each other. And you can see their denominator are the same. What you can say about the numerator is they must be equal. So I don't care about the denominator now, like they are already the same. So a times x plus 1 minus 2 bracket x minus 1 must be same as 4. So ax plus a minus 2x plus 2, that equals to 4. How many x we have? A minus 2x we have. And we have a constant of this. I just put the x term together and I'll put the constant term together. What do you think a should be to make them equivalent? Well, you can see on the left hand side we have x, but on the right hand side we don't have x. Do you need x on left hand side? Do we want the x on left hand side? No, because like they are not equivalent. They must look identical. So which means I need to get rid of the x term. So what coefficient should be? Well, if I don't want the x term. How many x means nothing? 0. Good. 0. So what a should be? How I can make the coefficient be 0? 2. That's right. A minus 2 wants to be 0. A must be 2. Also, a plus 2 equals to 4. So a equals to 2 will give you 4 as well. So you can see this question. I don't want this. So coefficient must be 0. So a minus 2 must be 0 and a equals to 2. Also, a plus 2 equals to 2 plus 2 equals to 4. That satisfy the equation. So a is 2 in this question. Yes? Yep. After. Oh, okay. So in this part, I have x term and I have constant term. A is a number, right? I have constant term and I have x term. I'll see how many x we have and how many constant, what's the constant we have. And then that's why I factorize it. So the ax and minus 2x, we take the x out, we have a minus 2x. That's how many x we have. And because left hand side wants to be the same as right hand side. I have x on left hand side, but I don't have x on right hand side, which means this x must disappear. How I can make it disappear? How I can make something disappear? You times 0. When you times 0, there's 0 coefficient, which means nothing there. There's no x. Yes?
I get the times 0 part, but I don't get why a minus 2 is 2.
That's the coefficient. A minus 2 is the coefficient of x. Well, you want 0x, so a minus 2 must be 0, right? And then that can become the whole thing can become a 0. Yeah. This question is an interesting question. You need to think about it and then needs to solve it like wisely, like why we need to make the x become 0, because we don't have x on the other side. We only have x on one side, which means that's something we don't need. So we need to get rid of it. So the coefficient is 0, then we can get rid of that. So a equals to 2. Okay, that's the end of exercise B. Okay, so you have about 10 minutes left, 12 minutes. So complete some of the homework. And Friday is the test.